So as this broadcast is going out on the internet, I hope George gets a chance to see this, because I was very tempted to disclose his name and address and contact details to this audience. And I will do that if he feels he can't come forward spontaneously. So, George, there's a warning. Two more individuals in this, and that is Richard Barr of Dorbarn Solicitors and his assistant, in fact his wife, Kirsten Lim, who were in charge of the MMR litigation in the UK, and two very good friends of mine, two very honourable people who have done a great deal for these children. The Whistleblower. They were called to Newcastle Station, which is in the north of England. It's not somewhere you really want to go unless you have to. In April 1998, by someone calling himself George. He travelled to Newcastle to meet with someone who described himself as a whistleblower. He had run on 2 occasions previously. He would not leave his name or contact number. He introduced himself as George, and this was an assumed name. In fact, it was the name of his son, who was an actor, and he wished to be identified only by this name. George explained that he was meeting us on behalf of a colleague, and his colleague was a senior medical officer in the Scottish office. George himself was a very high-ranking civil servant, although he didn't explain exactly his position. It was evident that the two had worked closely together. George's colleague was a representative, the Scottish representative, on the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. His colleague had worked in Canada, and at the time, MMR was introduced in Canada before it was in the UK. And they introduced a vaccine that contained the Urabi strain of the mumps vaccine. This vaccine was withdrawn in Canada before it was introduced in the UK because it was dangerous. There were problems with safety. There was a second meeting with George. In fact, I travelled to Newcastle for this meeting to confirm what he'd said on the previous occasion. In fact, George and George's colleague were one and the same. At the time, and this may be the case with many whistleblowers, George was in his early 50s, had 2 children attending university, and he felt very loyal to the civil service and the job that he had within it. He was putting himself in a difficult position by criticising these decisions. He wanted to come forward and speak to us because of the damage that he knew had been done. So he wanted to confess, if you like. He wanted to appease himself. He wanted to get this off his conscience. George was a paediatrician who also specialised in the rehabilitation of brain-damaged children, so he did have a direct experience of the awful situation of parents of children affected by the MMR they found themselves in. However, George has subsequently declined to come forward. So as this broadcast is going out on the internet, I hope George gets a chance to see this, because I was very tempted to disclose his name and address and contact details to this audience. And I will do that if he feels he can't come forward spontaneously. So, George, there's a warning. The second issue